Chapter 15. Achieve Immortality as a Posthuman. As we continue down the transhuman evolutionary path, I was reading about another cool thing that many of the big tech companies are creating. It's called a metaverse. Facebook is working on one, so is Microsoft. Think of the metaverse as a digital world that you could do life in. If you've read the book or seen the movie Ready Player One, Oasis is a metaverse. The main character Wade spent most of his time in the digital world, Oasis. He had a 3D avatar that could interact with other people and objects. He hung out with friends, played games, danced, and drove a car. It was life in a virtual world. If you're a gamer and like to play virtual reality games, the game worlds you play in are a metaverse. Here's how Mark Zuckerberg described the metaverse that Facebook is building in a recent phone interview with a reporter at The Verge. You can think about the metaverse as an embodied internet where instead of just viewing content, you are in it. And you feel present with other people as if you were in other places, having different experiences that you couldn't necessarily do on a 2D app or web page, like dancing, for example, or different types of fitness. If you want to talk to someone, you're working through a problem. Instead of just calling them on the phone, they can teleport in, and then they can see all the context that you have. They can see your 5 monitors, or whatever it is, and the documents are all the windows of code that you have, or a 3D model that you're working on, and they can stand next to you and interact, and then, in a blink, they can teleport back to where they were and kind of be in a separate place. In the future, instead of just doing this over a phone call, you'll be able to sit as a hologram on my couch, or I'll be able to sit as a hologram on your couch, and it'll actually feel like we're in the same place, even if we're in different states, or hundreds of miles apart. Okay, you can't tell me that doesn't sound cool. I mean, come on. Wouldn't you like to teleport somewhere virtually? I could see myself walking through a museum in a foreign country, virtually. I can envision myself attending a concert or sporting event virtually with my friends and family all next to me. The possibilities for the metaverse are enormous. It's going to drive an entirely new economy. The museum I want to walk through could be filled with art that's only found in the multiverse. Virtual museums would pay artists to create digital art. Museums could charge people admission. You could even have your own house in a metaverse that you design however you want, and then fill it with whatever you buy in the metaverse. Yes, you could certainly own items in the metaverse. That tech is already being used today. Perhaps you've heard of NFTs? Those are non-fungible tokens, meaning they are unique tokens which are stored on a blockchain, which is the foundation of cryptocurrency. Since it's unique, that means only one person could own the digital version. So, you can interact, do things, own stuff, and even work in the metaverse. Do you see how the metaverse could be like a city? We have to remember that Satan likes to put evil weapons in really cool packages. A key problem with the metaverse is that it's conditioning us to accept and even desire life in a virtual world. Life in a world that we humans created, not the world that God created for us. It's assaulting everything physical, everything that God created. This conditioning is necessary to achieve the end goal of the transhumanist evolution, the posthuman. Here's how humanityplus.org describes that state of being. Exceeding the limitations that define the less desirable aspects of the human condition, posthuman beings would no longer suffer from disease, aging, and inevitable death. They would have vastly greater physical capability and freedom of form. Posthumans would also have much greater cognitive capabilities and more refined emotions. The posthuman isn't human at all. It's humans becoming digital and living forever in a digital reality. Why do you think there are companies like Elon Musk's Neuralink working on brain-to-computer interfaces? It's because they want to upload a brain, a consciousness, they say, to a computer. That digital consciousness would then live in a virtual environment, a human-constructed heaven made of ones and zeros. Amazon even has a new TV show about this. It's called Upload. The main character is on the verge of death and chooses to be uploaded into a virtual heaven. Uploads get to pick which heaven they want to live in, like a tropical paradise or a city. Of course, none of the heavens are free. The uploads can even communicate with people who haven't died and been uploaded. Living people just appear as a hologram in the virtual heaven. A downside for living people is that they're expected to support and provide for uploads, because uploads can run out of digital currency and even data. Yes, data. You see, it takes a lot of bandwidth to live in a virtual world. Can you see how much Satan hates God and everything that God created, including you? He is bombarding us with this simulation lie. He wants us to believe we either already live in a simulation or that we're meant to live in one of our own making in the future, permanently. And the billionaires on the planet are totally bought in. Check out these headlines. Elon Musk's big Neuralink paper, Should We Prepare for the Digital Afterlife? Life After Death, physicist Michio Kaku says digital immortality is within reach. Deepak Chopra and Richard Branson to live on forever through AI. Here's how. Could AI keep people alive after death? The digital afterlife is open for business, but it needs rules. Smart people believe Satan's lie about the afterlife being digital because they want to construct their own heaven, their own afterlife. They are full of pride, just like Satan. While many of these people claim to be atheists, their actions betray them. Their desire to live forever in an afterlife is proof that God put a desire for eternity into their hearts. Otherwise, wouldn't they be okay with just living and dying? This digital afterlife is also a mechanism to escape. I think that's one of the main draws of the metaverse. It's a way to escape what's going on in the world. The digital afterlife is their way to escape both the world, which they view as dismal, and God's judgment. The same sort of thing happened before in history. Shortly after the flood, God told Noah and his family to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. Genesis 9:1. However, that's not what most of his descendants chose to do. Instead, they all got together and built a city. The Tower of Babel was in that city. Genesis 11. You see, they wanted to make a name for themselves, and they wanted to escape any future judgment. That's why the tower was constructed waterproof with tar and reached into the heavens. It was going to be their haven if God flooded the earth again. But it was even more than that. They also had an evil desire to conquer heaven and take over. Do you see the similarity to today with our desire to build a digital city for the afterlife? In both cases, man is placing himself above God. We've made the afterlife about our will, our desire, and our glory, just like the Tower of Babel. But it's supposed to be about God's will and God's desire. Matthew 6:10. He's the only one who deserves the glory. Revelation 4:11. Now, as for escaping judgment, you already know that there's no hiding from God. He's everywhere and sees everything. Psalm 139, 7-12. When you die, you immediately start your afterlife. Hebrews 9:27. Satan wants you to think that God has totally messed up the afterlife and that it's just horrible, so you need to escape God's design and live in your own. His lie about making your own heaven is a deception that will indeed get you an afterlife that's horrible. It's the same eternity that Satan is getting, hell. We needn't have any fear about the afterlife not meeting our expectations. God isn't going to trick us. He knows how to give good gifts. Matthew 7, 9-11. Heaven is going to be way better than what you currently experience on earth. Now we live with great expectation, and we have a priceless inheritance, an inheritance that is kept in heaven for you, pure and undefiled, beyond the reach of change and decay. So be truly glad. There is wonderful joy ahead, even though you have to endure many trials for a little while. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. So when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise, and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. You love him even though you have never seen him. Though you do not see him now, you trust him, and you rejoice with a glorious, inexpressible joy. It is all so wonderful that even the angels are eagerly watching these things happen. 1 Peter 1, 3-4, 6-8, and 12 NLT. I love this scripture because I can't help but smile when I read it, especially the last verse. The holy angels are watching everything in eager anticipation. They can't wait for us to see what God's preparing for us. They can't wait to meet us. They can't wait to see who gets saved today and places their faith in Jesus. They throw a party every time it happens, Luke 15:10. If the angels who live in heaven in God's very presence are excited for us, shouldn't we be excited ourselves? There's going to be so much joy that Peter said it's inexpressible. Jesus said if we put our faith in him and walk closely with him, then our desires would align with his. That's when we're able to ask for anything we desire, and we'll get it. John 15:7. You're going to be abiding with Jesus when you get to heaven. Trust that your desires are going to be met. God's got this. Now, we've already tackled some of the obvious assaults on the afterlife that posthumanism represents in prior chapters. Heaven and hell are both real, physical places. You're going to have a real, physical, immortal, super body in the afterlife. You're not a bunch of ones and zeros. God created you as a unique individual, and he's even going to present you with a new name in heaven. So, let's discuss a new weapon that Satan is wielding in this posthuman assault. Scientists are making the assumption that the information they upload or transfer from someone's brain to the computerized afterlife is their consciousness. They're equating information with life. Here's a good example. If you've seen the Marvel movies, you'll remember Jarvis. He started out as Tony Stark's computer in Iron Man. He was an AI. Well, he eventually got an android body and became an Avenger. He was treated like a human, and in the comics even got married and had children. So, since we can have something that was digital become human, that must mean that humans can become digital. The problem is that your soul is not information that's stored in your brain. Your soul is separate from your body. You are body, soul, and spirit. 1 Thessalonians 5:23. And we also know that a body without a spirit is dead. James 2:26. The only spirit who can give life to a body is God's Spirit. 1 Corinthians 2:12 and Hebrews 2:14-15. You know full well that God's life-giving Spirit, his breath of life, is not in any machine. However real it may act, a digital upload isn't real. It's just another AI. The last assault against your afterlife that I'd like to address with posthumanism is Satan's temptation of freedom. One of the reasons I think the metaverse that Facebook is creating is cool is because of the freedom it'll provide. Today, there are several things that limit my ability to travel to a tourist attraction in another country. If I want to visit the Louvre Museum in Paris, France, it would cost quite a bit of money to fly there, stay in a hotel, and live in the city for a few days. It would also take a lot of time to get there, stay there, and come back. Now, if I could just put on a virtual reality headset and visit the Louvre Museum from the comfort of my sofa one Saturday afternoon, there's a lot of freedom in that, isn't there? Many people think that heaven has limitations similar to what we have to deal with on earth today. It's Satan's lie that heaven is bureaucratic and a place where it's difficult to do things. That is such a lie. Heaven is the place of ultimate freedom. It's limitless. Jesus is the one speaking in this verse. The thief is a reference to Satan. Jesus promises abundant life. The thief comes only in order to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have and enjoy life, and have it in abundance to the full, till it overflows. John 10:10 AMP. And you'll notice that Jesus' promise of abundant life means overflowing. Everything about life in heaven is going to overflow. Are you limited financially today? In heaven you won't be. As a believer, you're a child of God. Romans 8:14 through 17. A co-heir of all that there is to inherit. You're going to have treasure and rewards in heaven. Luke 12:33 through 34. You won't need to earn a living in order to support yourself. God is going to freely provide for you from his own house. Psalm 36:8 through 9. You're going to have a home that Jesus is preparing just for you. John 14:2 through 3. You don't have to pay for it. It's a gift. All of heaven is a gift for you. Are you limited physically today? Maybe that's why the metaverse and a posthuman world are appealing to you. You could dance or go fly fishing, and you just can't physically do those things today. In heaven, you won't be limited. You're getting a new body that'll be immortal and work perfectly. 1 Corinthians 15:53. We're even going to be able to overcome the limits of physics that we have today. Peter walked on water with Jesus' help. Matthew 14:25 through 29. And Philip got teleported. Acts 8:39 through 40. Your forever body isn't going to have the limits that your earthly body does. You won't need a metaverse or digital heaven to travel to wherever you want to go. You won't need a virtual reality headset to participate in any activity that you can't do in real life today. Are you limited because of a lack of relationships today? Maybe you're lonely and don't have anyone to do things with. In heaven, you're going to have a bunch of friends. Anyone you've ever helped in some way who makes it into heaven is going to welcome you into their heavenly home. Luke 16:9. And this isn't just referring to people you've directly helped. It's anyone you've indirectly helped and are likely not even aware of helping too. If you've donated to your church, a food bank, a clothing drive, or even prayed for strangers you don't know, all of those things have indirectly helped someone. Jesus will also be your friend. John 15:14 through 15. And we mustn't forget about the holy angels. They're going to enjoy our hospitality in heaven. Hebrews 13:2. And will also continue ministering to us in heaven. Hebrews 1:14. Are you limited by fear and anxiety today? Perhaps you can't visit the Louvre Museum today because you're afraid of flying. That's why the metaverse and the digital afterlife are tempting. Here's some great news for you. There is absolutely no fear in heaven. You're going to be fearless. God is love, and he who remains in love remains in God, and God remains in him. In this, love has been made perfect among us, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, even so we are in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has punishment. He who fears is not made perfect in love. 1 John 4:16 through 18. There is no fear in love. Heaven is love because it's where God dwells, and God is love. You won't have any fear of punishment or of not being good enough in heaven because you will have overcome it by putting your faith in Jesus. You won't have any fear of pain because that doesn't exist in heaven either. Revelation 21:4. Are you limited because of your job, career, or a life circumstance today? Perhaps you're liking this fake digital afterlife because you'd get to be anything you want in the afterlife. Maybe you've had a longing to be a teacher, but you just haven't been able to go to school and get the education you need for that career. Well, God is going to give you things to do in heaven that he literally created you for. 1 Peter 4:10, Ephesians 2:10. There will be many opportunities for you to teach fellow immortal believers in heaven, and even people who survive the tribulation and live out their lives during the millennial reign of Jesus. Whatever it is that limits you today, that makes a post-human existence appealing, that limit will vanish in heaven.
He who didn't spare his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how would he not also with him freely give us all things? Romans 8:32.
God's promise is that he will freely give us all things. What things? All things. Anything you can think of. Of course, that's anything not sinful, because there's no sin in heaven. A body that doesn't hurt, a pet, a fulfilling mission, food, a friend, clothing, a vacation, etc. And do they have a cost?
No, they're free. So don't believe Satan's lie that you need to be a posthuman in order to live life large and limitless. Heaven is the place of ultimate freedom and abundance.